Well, I'm Dana Shaffer. I currently serve as the Dean of the Osteopathic Medical School here at UPike.
And how long have you been dean?
1 year. 1 year and 3 months exactly.
Okay. Well, I just have this sense as a kid, you didn't, when people asked you what you want to do with your life, you said, I'm going to be a dean of Osteopathic Medical School. As a kid, what did you want to do?
That's a really good question because I wanted to do a lot of different things. I would say as I got closer to leaving high school, I was on the path to become either an EMT or a paramedic. Back in those days, this was the early 70s, paramedics and PAs were actually just becoming part of the healthcare team. Those individuals were starting to be educated. I think the first PA program was at University of Cincinnati, and it was taking medics from the Vietnam era, bringing them back to the States, putting them through some additional training, and utilizing the knowledge that they had received in the war zones and utilizing those services to augment the medical care that was being provided in the United States. And I thought that's what I wanted to do. So I actually went in the Navy to get that experience with the intention of going to PA school. But once I got into the Navy and started working with physicians, a lot of them started to influence me to the point where they said, you should probably consider going to medical school. And so when I got out of the Navy, that's what I ended up doing, going to undergraduate, because I had no college experience. I went right in and out of high school. I went to an undergraduate program that was a 6-year accelerated program that was at Wilkes University for 2.5 years, and then another 3 years at Hahnemann Medical School in Philadelphia to get your combination of your bachelor's degree and your MD degree.
Wow. How interesting, going one way and then all of a sudden here you are now as a dean of a medical school. Obviously you've worked a lot of years, and in some ways people might say that you're at the pinnacle of a career in medical education. But is this the dream job, or is there a dream job out there for you?
Well, this became my dream job as I was in medical practice in a small town in rural Iowa of 800 people. I started to appreciate that we lacked physicians that were wanting and able and trained and had a passion for going into primary care in rural and underserved areas. We were in a community or a county of about 7,800 people, so about the size of Pikeville. That was my entire county. We had a little critical access hospital, and 3 family practice physicians were the only medical care in that entire county. Beyond that, you had to go 30 miles in a different direction to get to a little bit larger city and a little bit larger hospital, and then about 70 miles to get to either Omaha or to Des Moines. So we were kind of right in the middle of a section that had people that needed medical care. And so I started getting involved in medical education in order to expose some medical students to the joys of practicing in a rural community, and fell in love with medical education. And it's kind of a different story is how I actually moved from that sort of medical training into a medical school, because one of my mentors was a cardiologist in Des Moines who trained me when I was in my internship, and he became the clinical dean at Des Moines University at the medical school. And he came to talk to me one day, and he said, Dana, students love the way you teach and the way you let them be involved in patient care. Have you ever thought about coming to the medical school and becoming part of the faculty? And I said, well, no, not really. He said, well, I've got a perfect job for you. It's a quarter-time assistant dean position, and all you're going to need to do is work with us to help us develop other rural training sites just like what you have here in Audubon, Iowa, and you're going to do that through the state of Iowa and the upper Midwest, which included South Dakota, Minnesota, and Nebraska, and a little bit in Wisconsin. But he said, you're just going to help us go out and recruit physicians to do what it is you're doing. And so I did that quarter time. And next thing I knew, I was being recruited to move into a half-time position, and then a half-time position came to full-time positions. I was still in full-time practice and working full-time as a clinical associate dean. And after a period of time, I said, that's enough. I need to make a decision and I'm going to have to go one direction or the other. And that was in 2008 that I ended up closing my medical practice in rural Iowa and going strictly full-time as a clinical dean.
I'm sure there was a lot of grief when people realized you were closing your practice, but benefiting the students in great ways. So maybe you've already kind of answered this, but I wonder, was there anything else in life that happened to spur you on to kind of understand yourself as an educator?
Well, that's a good question. I think it was probably just that I had the passion for primary care and for rural medicine, and I felt that I was equipped or had the experiences that I could share that with students and get medical students as passionate about rural practice as I was. And one of the things that I was able to develop at Des Moines University was a rural medicine educational program where we recruited students from rural Iowa, brought them to the Osteopathic Medical School, gave them a free ride. They had some extra courses that they had to take, but then they had to do all of their clinical training in rural Iowa with a commitment of going back and practicing for at least 7 years in that area. Very, very successful program, and I believe that program is still in existence today.
Huh. So this is maybe a little more challenging idea, because here you are, a man of many years' experience. You try to put your sense of call or purpose in a sentence. What is your call or purpose?
To train as many medical students as possible to treat the underserved.
You did that very well. So this is a moot point, really, but do you feel like your job aligns with that call?
Oh, absolutely. I'm in a position where I can really have an influence, and so I think I don't know of a position that would be more able to have the influence that I have right now.
You mentioned earlier about a person, a cardiologist, who was really important to you, right? A mentor, and anyone else in your life who's been really influential in helping you understand your sense of self and sense of call?
I would say two people, and one I'll say kind of jokingly, because the individuals that are watching this probably have no idea who Marcus Welby, MD is. But Marcus Welby, MD, was a television character back in the 60s. And he was, Robert Young was the actor, and he was a family physician that worked in a rural area, very similar to what I did. And he was the family friend. He was the confidant. He took care of everything for these folks. And growing up, he was kind of a little bit of a hero to a lot of us that had interest in going into medicine. So, I say Marcus Welby. But there was also my own family physician growing up. I was in a community of about 13,000 people growing up, and I remember going to my family physician, who was an elderly physician as I remember him, who used to sit in the office, and you'd go in and you'd just talk to him, and he'd do a little bit of a physical exam, and then go to the closet and give you some pills or some medicine or give you a shot or whatever, and send you out on your way. And he was just a very personable individual that I felt even as a child that I could go and talk to.
Mm-hmm. So if a person was watching this today and they said, man, like, you really are doing exactly what I want to do with my life, what did you do to put yourself in this position?
Work really hard. Going to medical school, first of all, was not easy. You have to be really committed, even more so today than back in the days when I went to medical school. I tell the students that are, or the candidates that come in, that this has to be a calling for you, and you have to be committed, and you have to put your life in order to make this become a reality. So, working hard, and being open to wanting to become the best physician that you can become, and remembering your humanity. One of the things that a lot of physicians become entrenched in is the science of medicine, and they forget the art of medicine. And the art of medicine is the communication, the touch, the listening, God gave us two of these and one of these for a reason. You should be listening twice as much as you're talking when you're dealing with patients.
Mm-hmm. So, obviously, a person who's been a confidant, a person who's listened to many, many persons and families over the years, and now in all these years of medical education, dealing with so many young physicians or wannabe physicians, I'm sure you've had people who come in and they say, you've got such a clear focus for your life, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with my life. What advice do you have for a person in that situation?
Yeah, it depends on where they are in their journey. If they're somebody that is trying to decide if they want to go into medicine to begin with, I tell them to explore all the different avenues and the options and decide, what it is they want to do and how much they really want to become involved in the care of patients. Medicine, going to medical school is not for everyone. PA school's an option, nursing school's an option, EMT's an option. There's a lot of opportunities out there where you can help people, which folks that go into the medical professions all want to do. They want to, number one, help people. And so if they're not in medical school, to really explore that. Once they come into medical school, a lot of times it depends on where they are in their career. And we will have some folks that very early in their first semester will come talk to us and say, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I'm not sure I want to work this hard or do this. And we help them with an exit strategy. And we had individuals in the last couple of years that have come to talk to me, and we've helped them make the decision that it's okay to change their mind even after they've been in medical school. And it's not that they're being a failure, it's that they have been given more information to make a decision. As you get further down the line, it becomes a little bit more difficult. I had one young lady that I counseled at a previous institution who at the end of her second year, she was already a nurse, worked in an emergency room, and she took her COMLEX board examination and failed it the first time and didn't fail it by very much, but she came to talk to me and said, Dr. Shaffer, I don't think I have the fire in my belly to even take this exam a second time and to continue on. So we had a conversation about how to make that decision, discuss it with her parents, with her fiance, others that she had a good relationship with, and go home and think about it before she made a decision. She came back later and said, I've made my decision, I'm going to leave medical school. And she did, went to nurse practitioner school and was able to do what she wanted to do, and last time I heard was very, very happy with her decision, what she was doing. So that was a very good outcome. Once you get further along, once you get into that fourth year, we have folks that have academic issues or maybe don't know what it is they want to do in the medical field, and now they're already $200,000 to $300,000 in debt. Very difficult to just leave medicine at that time, but some do because of academic reasons or health reasons, and we try to help those individuals explore other opportunities, and maybe stopping medical school, and they still have their bachelor's, they still have medical school courses that they might be able to transfer into a master's program and then teach at an undergraduate level or even at a community college level might be an option. Move over into a PhD, and maybe even teach at a medical school level or other graduate level. Other individuals take that knowledge that they've accumulated, and they'll move into more of a public service area, maybe work in government. Individuals I know that have gotten very late in their medical career or even finished their medical degree and decided that they didn't want to go into clinical medicine have decided to go into the public sector and work more as in the public health arena, whether it be a community health center or even Job Corps or other sorts of things along those lines. So there's opportunities out there for folks anywhere along the continuum of education, and it's okay to change your mind. You got to be happy what you're doing. And the worst thing in the world from my perspective is to have someone finish medical school, finish residency, be out into practice for 5, 6, 10 years, and then have second guesses and make a decision at that point that they're not happy.